Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com. From time to time we get different video suggestions handed over to us, and one of them has been for a little while now to do a shop tour. So that's what we're going to do for you today. Before I get going with that though, I just want to give a huge shout out to all our Patreon supporters who have helped us out through this year by supporting us in our campaign. If you aren't sure what Patreon is still, it's really kind of like a big tip jar for you, the YouTube watchers, to help us, the YouTube creators, produce our content. If you're at all interested, maybe you've watched some of our videos or read some of our articles and you're kind of interested in maybe becoming a patron of ours, we've included a link in the description just below here, so you can check it out there. But anyways, let's just get on with the tour. So basically this is my main woodworking general use shop. It's really my garage at my residence. The building's basically 22 feet by 36 feet long, 10-foot walls, fully insulated, heated, all that kind of stuff. You can see just by the quick pan around, I've got lots of crap in here, and it's usually not this clean. I actually cleaned it up just for you guys. So to start out with, we'll just kind of work our way around. Like I said, I already give you the size of the garage. I've got an extra oversized door here, which is actually 18 feet by, I think it's about 8'7". It's kind of an oddball size. My supplier just happened to have it, and when I was building the garage, I could make the opening whatever size I needed it to be, so that's what I used. So I've got that, of course, hooked on an electric opener. Very rarely is there ever a vehicle in here unless it's getting worked on. This is pretty much solely just for my shop space. So as we work our way around here, you can kind of see I've got this rolling cart here that has a spot for, usually collects odds and ends on the bottom. Some almost finished projects going on up top here. Made this little replica table from this original one that's basically falling apart. So it just happens to be a project that's kind of been worked on here lately. As I go around to this side, you might have noticed too on the door, you can see there's some overspray of paint and stuff here. Because a lot of times I'll lean doors or have doors stood up here that I'm spraying. So the first few times I did it, I didn't protect the door and I got kind of a mess. But now when I do it, I hang poly on the door. I just use these little clamps here. I've got a bunch of them, you might have noticed, stuck all over the door. And I can basically clamp the poly to hold it in place just to protect from overspray. So as I move around, I've got a bit of a spot here where I can keep some ladders or anything that's a little bit taller. I've got some cords hanging on the end here, that sort of thing. Up top, I've got some miscellaneous storage space here for just cut-offs of all kinds of wood trims and that. Every now and again you need a little short piece. There's some longer stock of trims and that up there that are either waiting for a project or maybe were an extra left over. I've got these nice cabinets that I added to the shop here probably a little over a year ago. Just a nice metal cabinet, nice doors. It kind of keeps everything that's in here a little less dust on it and that sort of thing. So that one cabinet down there, I've just got some buckets and cords and hoses and stuff in. This one here, I've got some miscellaneous tools mostly that I don't carry with me every day. Some more specialty stuff, so that kind of stashes away in here. This one here, I've got everything from painting supplies to car cleaning, car care, some oils, lubes, that sort of stuff, all in this one. These cabinets are nice because these shelves are all adjustable, and in fact once I bought them, I ordered some extra shelves from the manufacturer just to make them a little more user-friendly. This last cabinet here, I've got all my Varsols, thinners, paints, some more painting supplies, glues, that sort of thing, all in that one. But like I said, before I had kind of some open shelving along here, and all this stuff would be just covered in dust all the time. So this way the doors kind of keep a lot of that dust and extra stuff out of there. Again, up top, just a little bit of storage for some odds and ends, Christmas decorations, cabinet doors, that sort of thing. You probably noticed my compressor down there that's kind of stuck in between the cabinets. We do have a video you probably have seen with that compressor where we did a piped air supply system, so it comes from the compressor and branches off here to a couple locations. Once you get into this area, I've got, I just kind of stashed my air nailers and staplers up there. Got a little place here where I can stick different air hose attachments. Just a few drawers standing here that are waiting for another project. Up top, there's not too much interesting in there. Some different air hose accessories, some laminate floor tools, that sort of thing. Down below, in this whole area, I've got storage for all these plastic sawhorses. I think you've seen me use these quite a bit. I find these pretty handy. You know, they don't take up a lot of space, they aren't heavy. They're easy just to throw up a set of these and away you go. You can see a lot of them have paint overspray on them if I'm painting trim here. That's what I use. I've got an air reel down here for one hose. Just some miscellaneous storage all along that bench. As we keep moving along, up here on the wall, when I first built the garage, I knew I needed something to help you know, draw out some of the dust and stuff that was going to be in the shop at certain times. So I dreamt up this idea that I'd just take an old furnace fan and vent it through the side of the garage. It works really well. I've got it set up just on a switch down here. Cut it in and out whenever I need it. That big chunk of foam that you see sticking out there, that's actually the slide gate for that, because I didn't want to have it being drafty in the winter when it isn't being used. So I simply pull a little nail is all that's holding it up there, and then slide the styrofoam down and when I want to use it and turn the fan on. So you're not going to see any huge innovation here. You can kind of see I just use bits and pieces of whatever kind of has come up over the years. You know, even the cabinets that I have, mostly it's just leftover stuff or things that I've removed someplace in a project and decided I could use here. So once we get into this workstation, I've got my dual bevel sliding compound saw here. So this particular one, I've got it on a cart so I can move it around if I want to. This one also doesn't have, this brand, this particular model doesn't have the big arm that you usually see in the back. It's more of a hinge system there. So it doesn't take up as much room against the wall. My old one, I used to have it sitting out quite a bit further because it had the large arm on the back. But so I've got it in that rolling cart. On the back of the cart you can kind of see this dust shield here, and it kind of goes down to a chute in the back. I used to have a dust collector hooked up in the back here. Didn't really work all that great, so I kind of removed that and repurposed it over at the table saw, but I've still got to come up with something a little better than what I had there for that, because these saws kick out a lot of dust. With the saw, I designed it so I've got a bench on either side that is, you know, the same level as the saw. So when I've got long stock, moldings generally come about 14 feet long. You know, I've got lots of support without having to set up sawhorses and that when I'm cutting. Down below in that rolling cart, I've just put my portable planer in there, and one of my laser levels happens to be stashed away there as well. Hanging back here, I've just got some jigs, holing jigs and cutting jigs for the table saw back there. Up here is just basic cleaning supplies. Again, just some stuff I never use up top there. Toolboxes that aren't being used right now, that sort of thing. There's some jigs stacked up, all that. Here's another supply hose. Again, in that other video you would have seen it. Because I work at this workstation here behind the saw all the time, I've got this air hose, so when I'm using a nailer or whatever, it's all accessible right here, and I've just got it hooked back out of the way at this point. As we move along, just some more workbench area, mostly storage. So, you know, here I've got a bunch of cabinet hardware type supplies, router bits, those sorts of things. Then as we move into that corner, screws, bolts, nuts, nails, and more screws around the corner, as you can see. I've got a little place where I can keep some excess caulking and silicones and glues and that sort of stuff. Up here I've got the irons that I use for doing my edge banding on melamine and that sort of thing. Sandpaper, you know, this is kind of, like I said, my main workstation, so just the things I use a lot of, They're all kind of within arm's reach here in this area. You know, I like to use these little M12 drills, so they're all nice and handy here with a charger and safety glasses, that sort of stuff up there. Down below, I've just got a couple more routers. There's some different sanding tools in those boxes. This one here is circular saw routers, trim routers, joiners, that sort of stuff. I kind of keep those still in their boxes because even though I use them a lot here, I still do take them on site, so it's nice to have them in a box just so they aren't rolling around in the trailer. So, okay, so I've got all that stuff there. These drawers just got miscellaneous stuff in them. You probably can't even see. It's just got jigs and suction cups, chisels, that sort of stuff all in there. It's not really too much in there. I've got lots of hardware over there too. So as you come around again, the one thing I always find in my shop, you know, you don't need a lot of space for tall stuff, but you always need a corner somewhere or whatever. So I stopped my bench short and my cabinet short. So I've got some, you know, support bars and flooring moldings and tripods, that sort of stuff, just stashed right way in the corner there where they're kind of out of the way, but yet, you know, sometimes you need that height to store them. I think I mentioned the more screw bins and nail bins I have. You know, the old famous peanut butter jar. Can't do any better than that for a good selection of screws. I just find it nice and handy. And as we keep moving, everybody's pretty much got a pegboard somewhere in their shop that they hang up a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. And it might not look like it, but everything kind of has its home there. You know, it's easy enough. If I'm doing something here, I can kind of reach and grab it without even looking most times. And up top, I've got most of my tiling supplies is up there other than my big wet saw. The reason I keep that stuff all up there is because I don't use it a lot, so this way it's not taking up valuable space down lower where, you know, I need stuff that I need all the time. So all that stuff's up there. I can access it easy enough with a ladder. And as I keep moving around here, I've got just a simple little homemade router table set up there, and it's portable. Basically, I usually use it in this general area, but I don't have it on wheels, but it is pretty much portable. I had wheels on it at one time, but I couldn't lock them well enough, and it was moving around, and I was afraid I was gonna end up having an accident. So I took the wheels off, and I can still drag it around when I need to. This whole little spot here is just kind of dedicated to my calendars and all my clamps and glue up type material there. So that's all hanging there. Move around to this side. A lot of this side is not so much woodwork related other than the drill press. You know, I've got some different hardware and stuff for, you know, around the yard or vehicles or whatever. Down on this side, I've got floor jacks, battery chargers, you know, grease and oil supplies. One of these drawers, this one here, is all my underground sprinkler assortment of bits and pieces I have. So this is just kind of a catch-all for all the stuff that doesn't really fit with everything else. Up here I've just got some old cabinets, and there's some extra supplies and stuff related to a little bit of everything here, but it's just kind of, like I said, catches everything else I don't need. Up top, again, I've got some bulk screws up there, just stuff from the vehicles we own, stored away, things, jigs and that I don't use very often are all up there, and that sort of thing. As we keep moving along here, got to have some refreshments now and again, so that serves purpose as refreshments, and also paint brushes and rollers in between coats get wrapped up and stuck away in there. Again, I've just got a bucket here. This is all kind of miscellaneous metal stuff, everything from rebar to angle iron to whatever I have that's metal basically goes in there. I've got the stereo here for tunes. I've got some dust mask, earplugs, fire extinguisher, kind of some safety stuff there, clock, whiteboard for making notes. And as I keep moving along, then I've got this bin here. Yeah, every shop, you've always got this problem with material storage as far as your sheet goods and that sort of thing, because not only do you have full sheets, you've always got pieces, right? And like most woodworkers, you don't throw them away till they get pretty small or damaged. So you're trying to keep as much of that stuff around, but you don't want to be tripping on it. So I kind of have this corner here because there's a bit of a jog outside in the building. So this just seemed like a nice sturdy spot to be able to build this bin way back when I built the garage 15 years ago or whenever it was. So I've kind of got this one side that'll fit full 4x8 sheets, or anything kind of in between. So it's the 1/3 to half sheets and bigger kind of goes in here, and I've got an assortment of whatever I've been working on lately. And then on this little strip of the bin, I've divided it off with a shelf here. So I've kind of got a couple compartments where a lot of these smaller little bits and pieces can go. I've got some leftover scraps of countertop laminate and that's stuffed in there. And then I still found that wasn't really enough, because you end up with some long narrow strips, and if you stand them in that big bin, they fall to the back and you can't reach them. So that's kind of what's standing here, some little narrow bits and pieces of stuff that I'm too cheap to throw away, and I know someday I'll probably use them. So in this this bin back here, I've got some flooring trims, vinyl siding trims, that sort of stuff. Just odds and ends that don't really stand up very well themselves, and I just took a couple of vinyl siding boxes, part of the box, and taped it together to make a couple bins to stand that stuff in. Across the top, again, I've just got more storage, mostly trim up there that I probably should just get rid of, because I had it up there probably 10 years and never used it. But again, just a spot up there where I can stick stuff that I don't need to get at very often. Coming back to this area, I've got more of my mechanical type tools, sockets, wrenches, screwdrivers, extra hammers, chisels, all that kind of stuff in this red box. And then once I get below here, I get into more of my electrical, automotive electrical type supplies there. What do we got here? I've got some hardware for cabinets, more household electrical type stuff, and that's what this bin down here is too. Just kind of the overflow for things I don't use all the time, but I kind of stash away so I have them. Over here, same thing. It's just kind of a catch-all of different stuff. I think my wife has one drawer right here. This is her one drawer in the whole garage. She has some of her crafty stuff there. And most of these, that's cleaning supplies. Here's some plumbing stuff down here. So I like those. They roll around if I need them to, although I found that pretty much once they found their home there, they stayed there, so that's all good. Again, just kind of a spot here, catches some, I keep some smaller pieces of melamine over here that I know are kind of the right size for drawer parts, and eventually I go through that stack and use them up from project to project. So, and as I keep going, I've got my portable belt and disc sander, so I can roll this out wherever I want to go, hook the dust collector up to it and use it. So I've got that on wheels because you can stash out of the way a little bit nicer as well. I've got the bandsaw, which I don't use a lot, but I got a pretty good deal used, and I couldn't pass it up. So it's a nice size for cutting a lot of stuff. This one's an 18-inch saw. So I put it on a rolling stand, so again I can roll it out of the way. In behind there, I've got some sheet goods that have been purchased for an upcoming project, and I've just got them stashed out of the way so they're not getting damaged or used for something else by accident. So we're almost getting to the end. Now we're back around to the door. So what I kind of like when I come into my shop, this is one of two of my shops, so I've got another one for storage, but I kind of like to be able to come in and have a place, you got your hands full, I like to be able to set stuff down, or maybe it's something I know I'm going to need tomorrow, but I had to bring it in here for me. I leave it here to try to remind me to grab that, to take it with me the next day. So kind of got this staging area where I can drop some stuff off. You can see I've got my drill bag here with my drills and stuff that I use every day. So it followed me in here the other day. Different things like that. Also, when I first come in, I've got my hearing protection hanging here right close. Over on this side, another fire extinguisher, first aid, hand cleaners, that sort of thing. I've got a bit of a charging station back here that I use conjointly with that bag of goodies that I'm taking in and out most days. My breaker panel. So I've got a separate, I don't have a separate service, but I've got a separate feed from my house to this panel that basically runs the whole shop, as well as I guess the hot tub outside. But you know, it's all kind of ran independently. I've got the phone, thermostat here, which you can see I've got an in-floor heat system here for heating the garage, so it's embedded in the concrete. And when I designed this, I didn't want, at the time I could still run my in-floor heat off a natural gas water heater. If I was going to try to do it today that way, I can't do it legally. But at the time when I did this, I could. And I didn't want to have a pilot light out here. You've got dust, you've got fumes, that sort of thing. So I wanted to eliminate that fire and explosion problem, or risk. So I came up with the idea of, okay, I'm going to put an extra water heater dedicated to this floor system in the basement of my house. And then I trenched down and piped the water from there back into the garage here. So my heating system, as far as the combustible part of it, is all in my home. I don't have any flame out here to worry about as far as that goes. So it just simply comes from my house, which is about 20 feet away. I've got it in a trench, insulated, and this is my return line. So this is the one going back. Everything's pretty dusty here. This is the one going back to my heat system, and then this is the line coming from the heat system. So this is the warm one, and they both go. One goes into the excuse me, into the manifolds, and this is just the other zones coming back out. So good system. The one thing with it, it's a bit of a slow recovery on the heat. So if middle of winter, I might have the temperature set to 14, 15 degrees Celsius here in Canada. Open the door up here. You get that blast of cold air, of course, comes in and cools down the air in here. So the recovery time to warm that air back up is a fairly good amount of time. All your items are warm, your floor's warm to the touch and that sort of thing. But I think if I was going to redo it or maybe make any changes, I would maybe put a loop in here that ran a little coil with a fan on it, just for heating the air, just for recovery. But that might be a future thing I'll do down the road. So that kind of looks after the entryway here. Oh, something else I recouped from a reno and a commercial job is these big mats here, and they were at the entrances and exits of the commercial building. So when people came in, it caught the bit of dust and stones and stuff, and I like it because it does two things. It does that for me when I come in here, but also it does that to catch the dust and sawdust off the bottom of my shoes as I'm leaving at night. So now and again I just roll them up, sweep it out, because it kind of falls down in there, and I kind of like that. So some kind of mat there to keep your, not only outside of your shop, but the inside of your shop a little more clean is kind of nice. Okay, one of the next big things, I should mention right here in the floor. So I have, because it is intended as a garage too, and with the in-floor heat, you bring a vehicle in here and it thaws off, and the water needs to go somewhere, right? So we slope the floor to this pit. Now this pit doesn't drain to the city sewer or municipal sewer at all. It's just a catch basin. So basically what I can do is lift this grate out. I've got a half of a 45-gallon plastic drum just cut off and sunk in the ground, and then the floor is poured around it. So that catches, 20, 30 gallons of water, which you'd be surprised it takes a long time to ever get even close to full. But I'll just throw my shop vac, wet dry shop vac in there, suck it out, dump it outside. So I like that system. There's a lot of regulations if you have that type of a pit tied into your city sewer. You need oil traps, all that kind of thing. With this setup, you don't need it. Probably the only thing I regret about this garage is, since I brought water in here, I could have laid a drinking water line in that trench as well and had a slop sink in here. I kind of regret not doing that at the time. It's a little bit late now to do it, but I wish I would have had a slop sink. So the last thing I want to talk about is kind of the heart of any woodworker's shop. It's usually the table saw. Mine is, I don't know what it is, 2.5 horse or something like that, 240 volt. I've got this large King industrial fence on here. There's many fences that are just identical to this, and I can cut about 53 inches total, which is nice to be able to cut more than, you know, a little more than over half a sheet of plywood. So, you know, lots of capacity there cutting wise. I've got it set up with this outfeed table on the back, which is actually my workstation as well. As you can see, my shop isn't huge, so to have a separate workbench somewhere else just takes up a lot of room. So what I found right from the beginning is I was always standing here working anyways, so this just kind of became naturally my workstation. I've got stuff back here, so you know, I'm kind of here. I've got the anti-fatigue mats on the floor, that sort of thing. I've got the power bar on the end of the bench for plugging in tools. There's another one back here. So everything's set up so that I can work here all the time. As far as the cutting goes, I made sure that the table saw height and this height and this height, everything's the same. So if I put a big sheet of whatever, plywood, whatever I'm cutting here, this, if it's long enough, it'll catch out onto here and be supported when I'm pushing it through the saw. If it isn't quite that long, I just made up this simple stand that I bring in and I can set it wherever I need it to be. It just holds the end of the plywood so it's not losing balance and taking any risk around that turning blade on the saw. So this thing's, you know, looks a little big and clumsy maybe, but it just fits there out of the way all the time, and I kind of like it until I ever find a different system, but I quite like how that worked out. So we've got the table saw. I've got just a small dust collector. Maybe if the camera wants to come around the back, possibly. Just a small portable dust collector I've found is as good as anything for this size of shop. And I've just got it rigged right up to a chute that I made on the bottom of the saw there. And just empty it whenever I need to. This particular one is a little bit on the noisy side as far as decibels, but most of them are, but you generally should be wearing ear protection anyways, so. And then you can see I also built just this little shelving unit underneath just to catch odds and ends. It's mostly hardwood types under there. There is a few tools and accessories for my saw sitting on that shelf. I always try to keep a push stick right up top here, and usually my wrench for changing the blade is up here as well. So I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, actually, as I look up, it reminds me of one more thing. So up top, you might have seen when the camera was panning around originally, I've got an air scrubber up here, which is just basically a filter system. It's plugged in with where my overhead door opener is, and I've just got it on a remote. So I can simply stand down here and turn it on and off, or adjust the speed, or put the timer on, or whatever. So I generally have that going if once I'm creating some dust. The other thing I've got is this tarp that's just kind of rolled up here right now. I originally hung that up there. I had it in a different spot, but I've moved it since. And basically all that is so that if I've got something I'm staining or painting over at this end, which is usually where I have my bigger projects sitting, I can roll this down, still have pretty decent access to the table saw, and kind of contain some of the dust more to that side. So I've just kind of got it up there for that purpose. I don't honestly use it a whole lot, but when I do need it, at least it's still there. So I think that pretty much wraps things up for this video. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure I've forgotten to discuss something, but it pretty much covers everything that I was thinking I would talk about. So we got this video out of the way. You guys that have been asking for the shop tour, you've got it now. Like I said, this is my main shop where I do the main bulk of my work. I do have another building, but it's more storage and that sort of thing, so we won't worry about that one. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed it. Please click the thumbs up button down below. Like I said, you can check us out on Facebook, check out our Patreon campaign that we talked about earlier, and yeah, just keep watching.